Chuck Todd, NBC News, Ronna McDaniel, Kristen Welker. I guess you know what I'm getting to. Chuck Todd, several months ago, left as the host of Meet the Press. But he was on Meet the Press yesterday, not as the moderator, but as a guest. It's being called a surprise appearance on Sunday's broadcast on NBC. And the reason Chuck Todd was there, he was very pissed off with the decision by NBC to hire the former RNC chair, Ronna McDaniel, and make her an NBC News contributor. And then they put her on Meet the Press for an interview on Sunday with the current moderator, Kristen Welker. I don't know quite how to react to this because I thoroughly enjoy the people that I listen to on MSNBC. NBC itself is not a network that I follow that much, although I do watch the NBC Evening News. But Chuck Todd said this on Sunday, quote, "You got put into an impossible situation booking this interview." He was talking to Kristen Welker. "And then all of a sudden, the rug was pulled out from under you and you find out she's being paid to show up? It's unfortunate for this program, but I'm glad you did the best that you could," end quote. And he's talking to Kristen Welker, who apparently, I didn't watch it, but apparently she was sitting there with kind of a blank look on her face. It was revealed Friday that Ronna McDaniel had been hired. And it has really raised some concern about her inability to speak truthfully. No shit. She's just another lying fucking worshiper of Donald Trump. What about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Ronna? Don't you worship there anymore? Apparently not. And Ronna McDaniel has talked about the validity of the 2020 presidential election. She has suggested that journalists were promoting propaganda, and NBC hires this bitch. Anyway, Chuck Todd, in talking to Kristen Welker, said, quote, "Our bosses owe you an apology for putting you in this situation," end quote. Whoa. Now, Kristen had disclosed on air that a possible booking of McDaniel had been in the works for weeks, and that she was not involved in the decision to hire her. You know, Kristen Welker just wanted to interview her about the aftermath of her being kicked to the curb by Donald Trump. Now, according to people, insiders in the television news business, Chuck Todd's remarks appear to be a rebuke that is aimed at the NBC News executive who oversees political coverage and who oversees Meet the Press. And her name is Carrie Brown. Or his criticism is directed to Rebecca Blumenstein, the NBC News president, to whom Carrie Brown reports. Blumenstein joined NBC News from the New York Times last year. And since her arrival, according to Variety, she has made hires aimed at bolstering NBC News' investigative efforts in political coverage. And during her early tenure, NBC News hired David Rohde from The New Yorker. They installed Kristen Welker at Meet the Press and orchestrated a change in command at Dateline. Ooh, all kinds of stuff going on at NBC. Now, NBC News executives all supported the idea of hiring this lying bitch, Ronna McDaniel. That's according to people familiar with the matter. And in part, it was due to concerns in the executive suite, apparently, that the news report, Meet the Press, lacked voices reflecting the current Republican Party. God damn these people. I mean, why don't you hire Mike Malloy or just consult with me and let me tell you what you NBC executives are unaware of. There is no Republican Party, you dumb bastards. There is a Christian fascist party, and you want to put them out there to further pollute the thought processes of your own audience. God damn you, NBC News. Now, during that interview with Kristen Welker, before Chuck Todd came on, Welker, tried to pressure McDaniel on her views on the legitimacy of the 2020 presidential election, as well as the Orange Bastard's promise he was going to pardon anyone punished for their involvement in the January 6th attacks on the Capitol. Tried to get answers out of the bitch. Now, most controversial decisions that are made in the executive suites of TV news outlets are discussed behind the camera, not in public, not in front of it. But NBC News has been called out by its journalists in the past. In 2019, Rachel Maddow with MSNBC delivered a stinging monologue in prime time during her cable program that examined concerns about the NBC News treatment of Ronan Farrow, who had begun investigating Harvey Weinstein, while Harvey Weinstein was at NBC News, and then took his work to the New Yorker. I'm sorry, excuse me, Harvey Weinstein was not, it was Ronan Farrow, who was working for NBC News. And after NBC kicked his ass for challenging such a powerful rapist son of a bitch as Harvey Weinstein, Ronan Farrow took his work to the New Yorker because NBC declined to put his investigative work on the air. So there's a history of this by NBC News. Now, NBC, the decision to hire McDaniel has really pissed off some of the people that work there. MSNBC President Rashida Jones is issuing top producers and anchors to a Friday meeting, according to a person familiar with the matter, telling them they had no mandate to have to book Ronna McDaniel or to keep her off their programs. Anyway, back to Chuck Todd. He said, quote, "There's a reason why there's a lot of journalists at NBC News uncomfortable with this, because many of our professional dealings over the past 6 years have been met with gaslighting, have been met with character assassination, have been met with lies." He suggested that Ronna McDaniel's contributor deal was made in exchange, are you ready for this? For access. Access to whom? Access to what? And then this morning, that was all on Sunday, Mika Brzezinski, who is the host of the Morning Joe program, co-host, she said, quote, "We hope NBC will reconsider its decision." She hosts that program with her husband, Joe Scarborough. And the comments that came from Joe Scarborough and from Mika Brzezinski, well, they said they learned about Ronna McDaniel's hiring through press reports on Friday, and then followed former Meet the Press moderator Chuck Todd's public criticism on Meet the Press. And Scarborough said he objected because of McDaniel's role in the Orange Bastard's fake elector scheme. And Scarborough said that she summed up the sickness in the Republican Party, where sticking with the team is more important than speaking the truth. Oh, God. Scarborough said that she summed up the sickness of the Republican Party, the Christian Fascist Party. Mika Brzezinski said that the program, Morning Joe, believes that NBC News should seek out conservative Republican voices. Okay. But she said, quote, "But it should be conservative Republicans, not a person who used her position of power to be an anti-democracy election denier." I mean, this is really heartbreaking to me because of the time I have spent in that field, in journalism. Although my brand of journalism is not journalism anymore. It used to be, but now it's opinion. And there is a distinct difference between the two. But the fact that I spent time in journalism and have great respect for what a journalist is supposed to do. When I find out that an organization like NBC has hired a filthy scum Trumpist like Ronna McDaniel, I don't know what to say. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.